not really a sketch factor and not really like a style factor, but somewhere in between is where it hits. Mm-hmm. And so I find that a really interesting direction for parkour to go into, but you really do have to sell it.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome back to STS. This is a show where we pick apart current events in the world of parkour. Both of us have been practicing parkour and coaching it for over a decade, and we hope that we are able to provide insight into these topics and the world of parkour that you might not hear anywhere else.
In this episode, we talk about the SPL2 announcement, fun ideas for parkour competitions, Valtteri's new video, and Jason Paul's marketing tactics.
Please jump into the conversation by leaving a comment below, and make sure you leave us a like and share this with your friends. Without any further ado, let's get into this week's episode.
You have any plans for August coming up?
Yeah, there's something that I'm supposed to definitely be here for. I think it's around like the 17th to 20th.
Around, yeah, or specifically 17th through the 20th. Oh, SPL2 coming up in August.
That's what it is.
Yeah, we just announced the dates as of right before recording this, actually.
I feel very adult about it.
Yeah, what do you mean by adult?
Well, it's the earliest announcement. You know, it's a very adult move to be announcing a competition that's going to happen next year.
Yeah, we actually got it out like in the year prior. This is a first. Amazing. So what are you most excited about for SPL2?
I'm most excited actually to be doing this European qualifier.
Ooh, European qualifier. Yeah.
That I don't know if we should, we're not going to get into the details just yet on that, but I'm always interested in trying to see how many more people we can get out for this from all over. Because I think when we started doing this thing, we were trying to, like back when we were doing North American Parkour Championships, a big part was like, this is my favorite athlete, this is your favorite athlete, who's actually, going to be better at this thing, not maybe. Competition isn't the only determining factor of better, but particularly when we're talking about jumps or things, like, oh, so-and-so could do this running pre, I bet they could do it. And I still feel like sometimes we don't quite get the definitive answer, even though we've really gone worldwide with the attraction of the event. So now that we're going to be going out and getting like more opportunities to get people from all over, we can get closer to having a more definitive answer.
Well, I mean, we've always been limited to who comes to our qualifiers, and up until this point, all of our qualifiers were either on site here at the main event or across the US, basically. So, and then, there's people who have come from all over to try to compete at an on-site qualifier, from across Europe, including the UK, Germany, the Netherlands, you can list them off, but also even like places like Japan and Asia. So like people have been very interested, or South America, people have been interested in competing in the event, but there's still a limit to how much opportunity there is to even qualify in. And we've opened up things like online qualifiers, but this is definitely a new opportunity here going into Europe and hosting a qualifier there. Because maybe we'll find. We still don't really know who is the best. I mean, basically we should just
let us know in the comments who is the best.
Who is the best?
Each per category. Who's the best in speed? Who's the best in skill? Who's the best in style?
Yeah.
Who have we yet to see compete?
Who can beat Tim Champion in skill?
That's a good one.
That's my question. Technically Joe came close in 2019. So did Andy. in 2018, Andy Vola. So like, yeah, who can beat Joe? And now after seeing the women's competition in 2021, like who can beat Rene Dambly?
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously Sydney in style too, right? Like there hasn't been much challenge for her at our event in over the last I don't know, decade. But there are definitely some more, like I feel like there's some people who could potentially dethrone.
There's a good bracket there.
Sydney, but I don't see anybody that's going to be better than Rene in speed and skill.
Yeah, maybe Miranda Tibbling.
That's a name.
If she wants to, if she wants to come out, that'd be interesting. I've mentioned this before. She's really tall.
Yeah, no, she's always towering over her fellow competitors and
actually that
in the podium spot.
If I think about parkour competition, if we can go off on a tangent here, we used to have this when we talked about body types, and I think there was a point in time where I think both of you and I had agreed that like this competitive parkour, particularly when it comes to speed and skill, it really favors taller athletes, and then we had some outliers, and I think it's still. Like if you put a lineup of competitors, like the the mugshot type lineup, and we had to guess, who without knowing any other details, like out of this lineup, who is going to win skill and speed, I would probably be leaning towards like the taller competitors. Particularly if we're saying like above 6 feet and below 6 feet for men, I'd be.
That makes sense. I mean, even going back to the years of like Mish and Dylan.
Yeah.
Right. Mish Todorovic and Dylan Baker, both 6 feet plus athletes. But Brandon Douglas is like, 5'8" or
yeah,
whatever,
we always
right?
had these like hyper talented outliers come in.
And then even in the later years of Mish's reign, like Jimmy Pereira, also a small guy who was just like a master.
Jimmy was so good.
Yeah, I think he still is.
Yeah.
And we never really got to see his full potential at an SPL event, but it's okay.
Jimmy Pereira. Oh.
But yeah, I mean, I would agree that the taller athlete, like Tim Champion is pretty tall, and he's just in general, his body type is quite like if you didn't show faces and you're like gonna pick out who's like the best parkour athlete, I'm gonna probably point at Tim.
This lean muscular guy.
Yeah. But yeah, and thinking over on the women's side, Rene is actually pretty tall for the division, right? She's taller than I mean, Kaja is actually pretty tall. But like Sydney is pretty short. Louise is not particularly tall, and just thinking about like other female athletes in terms of their height, I think Rene has an advantage in terms of height and body type.
Yeah.
Anyway, so tell us, who do you think will win per discipline, so skill, speed, or style, and per division? So be curious if there's anybody who could dethrone the current champions. So that's all we're going to talk about for SPL2. There's definitely a lot more information that's going to be coming out over the next few weeks about how to qualify, about getting tickets and so on. But we're not going to talk about that much more here. We did actually just have an event here, and it was a fun holiday event. It's a speed course event. It's called Season Speedings that we've been running for probably like 5 years, maybe more.
Yeah, I think it was actually Alyssa Serpa who coined the name Season Speedings. It's the one we do. And what's unique about it, and I think usually because we do a Halloween event as well, but with those two events, it's kind of been a goal to make them more a lighthearted competition. And the easiest way to actually do that, like at a parkour gym, is to remove parkour a little bit from from the competition. And I feel like we did that in the biggest way this time. So other formats, like one year we have a chimney in the gym, right? And so I thought it'd be fun to have people deliver a present into the chimney, which isn't really like a new idea in terms of parkour speed courses, because I used to do like parkour visions. You know, they had tons of ideas back in the day where, you know, it was like carry a medicine ball while doing an obstacle course. And then we changed it to put this present on a sled, like a weighted sled, and you got to push the sled to then deliver it. So again,
the sled was decorated so that It was like a winter sled.
Yeah. So we get a little further away from parkour, and I like to think of these things as like the equalizer, because, you know, we have people that come to the gym that are clearly, you know, more competitive, more athletic, and you know, more likely to do super well. And I think some of our members maybe potentially feel discouraged to compete when, you know, that's what they're up against. So this year we equalized it even more. I was trying to figure out an idea. I wanted to like deliver something in a present, and I thought originally I was thinking like nesting dolls. Those are like the dolls where it's like I'm full of tinier dolls. But I felt like that was going to be too easy, so I ended up getting Lego, and we had a Lego Mandalorian, like a blockhead, and a Lego Grogu blockhead. And I did this all like the day of, so like I just broke them up into pieces, and they naturally broke into like 4 or 5 pieces each, and then people had to like put them together, so they had to assemble them and then put them in a box and then deliver the box like through the speed course into the chimney with a partner. So that was a lot of fun. It was probably a really good test of my patience, because I set myself, I knew it was going to be fun, but I also knew it was going to be kind of a disaster, and it was definitely both. So
a fun disaster, if you will.
So improvements for next year would be just making sure that I probably have another staff member and another toy to build, because I had to like break apart and reassemble the Mandalorian like so many times for everybody, and that just led to this bottleneck lineup happening for the course.
Yeah, I ended up I didn't even see anybody running that because I was operating the other course. Yeah. And that was like, people were getting like rapid fire turns on this. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, all right, this is cool. Like my course was fun. Like that was really fun to watch, actually. The one issue there was like some of the boxes were getting pushed. Yeah. So Samson ended up putting some weights in them.
Yeah, I had this idea where, because that was the other theme course, is like a floor is lava, except, you know, it's winter theme. So floor is like ice water. And I just wanted to use the spring floor because the spring floor is blue, so it's just a really easy thing to be like, don't touch the spring floor. And then also that allowed for people to be able to go through the middle of the gym to access seating and stuff like that. So I think it worked, except for it's just hard to have structures on the bouncy spring floor.
Yeah, it still worked fine. I think everybody had a ton of fun with it, and it was fun to watch, and it was exciting to watch, actually. So like, as some of like the higher level members started running, it was like getting really excited, like neck and neck between a couple different teams. Mm-hmm. So that was pretty fun. That was towards the end, but yeah, I mean, people were there watching their kids, were having fun watching, like seeing them get like faster, like breaking their personal records or potentially coming out ahead of another group. So yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, I just want to say too, if you own a parkour gym, I think it's always you can follow like the more classic formats, and we are gonna have those later in the year. Like we'll do a more formal speed competition, style, skill. We actually have a skill night coming up this weekend. But sometimes you do have to kind of think outside the box and just try to do fun things, because it can't always just be about learning parkour skills. And so I think you'll see, if you do that for your members, you'll see more camaraderie and things build out of that.
Well, what was cool about this one was that it was like a team-based activity, and so you had like people signing up in pairs, and then if you didn't have a pair, then we paired you with somebody who also didn't have a pair, have a partner. So that was pretty cool. and there was like a couple of really good pairs that were made, and then people started like juggling partners like towards the end, at least for my speed course, because they had time.
Yeah. Yeah, it was tons of fun. I think like it's funny too because I've obviously been, both of us, but I've made the memes and such where I'm critical of Fig's course design and other things too, but it's when it's at the highest level, it should be reflective of the sport. So it's all fun to do hard things or different things in this sort of setting, but at the highest level it really should be more reflective of the sport. But again, if you own a gym, I think trying to find like fun games and things that you can add into parkour, your members will really enjoy it. And I think they did.
They definitely did. No, people were stoked about it. Yeah. Any more comments about season speedings?
No, I think we can move on to the next thing.
Event. Okay, well, I guess we wanted to talk a little bit about Farang. We're going to talk about Farang.
Yeah. Well, specifically, we'll start with how do you say his name correctly? Actually, because I'm always kind of don't know.
Correctly, or how do I say it?
How do you say it?
Valtteri.
Valtteri. Yeah. What about his last? No, I'm not even gonna try.
I don't even know his last name.
Yeah.
It's just Valtteri.
Maybe he can be like, is it Valtteri or Valtteri?
Well, if you're Canadian, you'll probably say Valtteri.
It's not a Canadian accent.
Valtteri. Well, it's like when Canadians say.
Is that a Canadian accent?
Canadians say Mario and Luigi.
I say Mario.
You do?
Yeah,
You're
but
the
I've
only
heard,
one.
I've heard Mario, and then whenever people say Mario, I always think that that's like the correct, and that I'm getting it wrong. But I say Mario.
This is an aside, but okay. So, what do you call the famous Italian food that everyone would eat?
Spaghetti.
Okay, that not spaghetti, but the class.
Pasta.
You say pasta?
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you been getting a lot of pastas?
Everyone says pasta here.
No, it's incorrect.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. So it's Mario and pasta, not Mario and pasta. Okay.
I feel like that could be an American pronunciation, though, in a lot of American dialects.
It definitely could.
Instead of the
It definitely could. It's like, but there's also like basically Canada states, Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know, a bunch of the Midwest, like the North.
Sure.
Then in the North, Minnesota, that's basically Canada.
Yeah.
Let's be real. So, okay, so Valtteri.
Jeez.
So the name of the video was Forever Incomplete.
Mm-hmm. Is that because I think I read somewhere that he was recording for a couple of years.
Yeah, I think it was just like he's never going to be done with this video, and then he finally is just there, done. But it's Forever Incomplete. Yeah, I agreed. So yeah, I think that's the concept behind it, and it was divvied up into two parts. So there was like kind of this first section, which was more like combination based, and lines and stuff. And then there was the second section, which was like heavy hitting, almost capstone-esque like type style of movement.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite section, part one or part two?
I didn't have a favorite section. I think overall I was surprised at how much parkour was in, like in terms of classical or traditional parkour. Instead of just a heavy flip style. I was surprised and impressed with how much parkour was in it.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Yeah, I think it's interesting because I feel like I never see that much from him.
Yeah, like didn't he originally come on the scene as like a twist guy?
Yeah,
like triple triple twist
Yeah,
guy.
he was one of like the early like triple.
Yeah, that was like all for the longest
Twisting
time. That's
guys.
all I had in my head when it came to Valtteri was that triple twist guy. But I think he was he was just talked about that way initially with like some of his earlier videos like pre-Farang.
Yeah, he's definitely more like, at least when he first came on the scene, he was definitely a twisty, like flippy guy that, in my mind as well. But then, he still obviously did stuff, but I think this was a really cool showcase of what he actually can do. And I mean, I preferred actually the part one of the video. It was longer, and I felt like it really demonstrated a mastery of like various styles of movement that were combined really well.
Hey, sorry for this quick interjection. We hope that you're enjoying the conversation and that you're getting insights into the world of parkour that you wouldn't hear anywhere else.
And remember, STS is ad-free, so please leave us a like, a comment, share it with a friend. And now, let's get back to the conversation. His second part was really cool too, but it, like I said, it is more like capstone style, which I love, but it's like massive jumps and drops and stuff like that. But I felt like his first section was really artfully put together in terms of what he was doing movement-wise. Really beautiful to watch. And he's got this like skiing style, right? Like a lot of people over the last several years have been kind of stealing ideas or borrowing ideas from tricking. We've been doing that for
First
years.
it was tricking.
Borrowing ideas from skiing. And I don't pretend to know any of this like axis stuff.
Also rollerblading apparently.
Rollerblading, yeah. Well, which
Because
is
in Farang Zero, which we haven't talked about yet, he does a move where when I look at it, I'm like, doesn't look super impressive. Why did they slow-mo it and do a separate insert of it? But apparently quite hard to do.
Yes, well, rollerblading and skiing are actually pretty similar. If you think about the way the way you ride rollerblades and the way you ride skis is actually similar, and so some of the tricks are similar. But obviously with skis you have like these really long toes and heels. But I don't pretend to know any of the like naming conventions or the way you count twists or things like that, or the axis. But it's super cool to see like the kind of shape of his body in some of these things. And he did some really, really cool tricks. Like he did double D leg, which the axis was all like weird on, and that was cool. And yeah, he did a bunch of other like really hard tricks that I probably couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I struggle with what to make over like double D-leg compared to double side. You know, like I struggle to.
It was very different looking.
Yeah. No, it's different looking, but I struggle to like understand which one is more difficult. Like for example, if you were to learn D-leg before learning side flip.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the time that like side flip is like a really standard axis. So I think the standard axes are easier to double.
Yeah,
right?
that makes sense.
Double front, double back, double side flip. But if you're going, and I don't know, maybe like you said, maybe if people learned D-leg and they're really good at D-legs, so it's easier for them to pull a second one. But I actually think pulling the second one is more likely to kind of turn you further off axis, which I think it actually happened to him, but he still landed it because he's awesome.
Well, also when the axis is not going inverted, like the rotations seem to become harder.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And I was actually talking to Julian about this, and I was, what are you working on? He's like, like a bunch of the like weird axis stuff, basically. I don't think he said it that in those terms, but I was like, okay, like that's interesting. He's like, it's scary. And I was like, what? Why is it scary? You'd think it wouldn't be that scary, but he's like, well, when you have years of like traditional axes like trained into your like muscle memory, like going a little bit out of that range, all of a sudden you're lost. And So you end up like, oh no, where am I? And then you're scared of like the landing because you are completely lost in the air. So I think it's interesting. So like when you have like the standard axes, it's harder to go outside of those unless you're doing it often. So yeah, that's something to consider. But I don't really do many flips, so there's so much that I don't know in that world. But it was a really cool watch, so I would highly recommend going and watching that video. And there was actually some clips that were in that video that were also in Farang Zero.
Right.
And we didn't actually talk about Farang Zero, and I actually finally watched it after Valtteri's video, and that's why we hadn't talked about it. As a big part of it was because I didn't watch it.
I've only watched both of these once. I was thinking, oh, I should watch Valtteri's video again before jumping into this chat, but did not do it. The one trick he does that stood out to me is like he does a side flip drop like over a rail, but intentionally hits the shin on the rail. It's one of those things where like I wonder, because it's like slow mode. Now I would actually like to see the regular speed one, just to see like how it, because it's tricks like that. It's really about how much you can sell it, like how much like the amount of time or how close you are to something. If you're trying to touch it with part of your body, I think it's a really cool direction for like parkour to go in, where you're like intentionally hitting something with like part of your body to make it. It's almost like dive rolls sometimes are like that, especially like the one arm dive roll. It's kind of like that, where it's like, oh, I'm doing sort of somewhere in between a front flip and a roll over something, but I'm just kind of touching it a little bit as I go over, because it has like a kind of like not really a sketch factor and not really like a style factor, but somewhere in between is where it hits. And so I find that a really interesting direction for parkour to go into, but you really do have to sell it.
Yeah. Julian actually has been doing those. Like
he did. He was in the class the other day, and he did like he hurdled a rail, but then intentionally like put his shin on the rail, and just did it like so chill and so casually. And I was like, yes.
Yeah, man, I'm so happy he's doing parkour again, because he's been like doing some really interesting stuff and going in a different direction than where he was back when he was a young teenager.
What's Julian's Instagram handle? I know he doesn't post that much, but when he does, it's really nice.
He
so
just
I think people should
to something silly.
Okay. So this is Julian Buffaro, who's been he started coming to the gym when he was like 10 years old. It was a really...
And he's currently like 21.
Yeah, so like since he started coming to the gym like year one, and then he kind of left parkour for a bit and came back. And then there's also Bodhi Fonseca, who's around the same time left parkour and came back, and they're both crazy talented. I think they're very similar to the similar sort of come up to the Colorado THC crew.
Yeah, they're actually very heavily influenced by them.
Couldn't find it.
No, he literally like a couple weeks ago he changed his Instagram handle, and now I don't know, and it's something like 0.49D. I don't know. It's some weird, like obscure artsy kind of name, but it doesn't matter. If he wants to be seen, he will be. But oh,
no,
he didn't.
Spelled it wrong.
No, I don't think you're gonna find it. But actually, it was originally, so he's from, he formed a team back when he was a young lad. It's called Team Gem. And actually, more recently, he actually did post a YouTube video of his skill recently. So, like, this is in the last, it was like last year, I think. And I think it's called Yo Jewel, or that's the original one. That's the original one. Oh, it's just called Jewel, right there, 1 year ago.
Yeah, I remember that one.
JUL, Team Gem. Look it up. He's awesome. Anyway, Actually, I think that video has him doing like
That was on
flips and
YouTube.
stuff. That's on YouTube. Yeah, I don't know. His Instagram is more difficult to find. Anyway, Valtteri, Farang Zero.
Sick. Yeah.
Did you like Farang Zero?
Farang Zero was kind of like uneventful for me to watch. I know like Doey made on his show, he was like raving about it and stuff, and it just kind of like flew by for me. I don't know what to make of Farang anymore. Like in terms of like I know like it's just a weird thing to say, but I think there was a point in time where when Pasha and Dom were on Farang, it was like, whoa, Farang is like one of the the best teams, And now I don't know what. I mean, not that they have to be anything, I guess. It's just like it didn't really stand out to me as like their releases don't stand out to me. So like that release in particular didn't stand out to me as like, oh, I have to watch this. Whereas like, oh, I have to watch Capstone. A lot of big names in there, And then the same, you got Joe Scandrett in both, right? And he's always like, he did cool things in that too, and he's always doing cool things. I think just some of the members, like you have like Jason and Annan, who both do like really cool things, but again, not like world class. So I'm not moved to really like I have to tune in to watch it.
Interesting.
And I don't know if that video was like really promoted that heavily either to draw to it. I think like Valtteri's video was promoted a little bit more. Yeah.
I really liked Farang Zero. I watched it after watching Valtteri's video, and I mean, obviously Joe Scandrett, more of him is always a good thing. But like even Dom showed up for it. Like he did a front flip that was like really like it was a really skinny front flip, and I'm super into that kind of
fair,
vibe.
Because this is like weeks ago now, and I haven't watched it since. Yeah.
I will get so like there's parts of it that I'm not like super impressed by, but it's a fun experience, which is like the goal. What was it? The goal like post thing or whatever.
Yeah.
That was like, all right. Yeah, I'm not like wildly impressed by it, but it was a fun watch. Jason did this like really cool like traverse thing at a separate part of the video. Also had like a weird bail off of the same sliding descent that Joe did.
Yeah.
And that was just like, I don't know, anytime that kind of thing happens, it's always exciting to watch. So, and then they had like a little like funny commercial thing that was in the middle of it, right? Like, use code FARANG0 to get 0% off clothing. But yeah, to me, Farang is a clothing brand, lifestyle brand. Like, they're not necessarily like, I think they're trying to stay on top of like having some of the best athletes in the world. Dom and Scandrett are examples of them, and Valtteri. But Valtteri, I think, does the clothing designs. And then, yeah, I don't know. Like, Annan and is clearly like kind of a jack of all trades kind of guy anyway. Like, he doesn't seem like super deep in continuing to improve at parkour.
Oh, he's trying. We're like the same age.
He's still doing parkour, but he's not like he just trained for a fight recently.
Yeah.
And then same with Jason is still an athlete, but I think he's started like I think we're seeing that generation move away from being the best parkour athletes.
There was a point in time where I would have he won world championships in style. So there was a point in time where like I would have made the argument that Jason Paul's the best in the world. I think also his parkour is really underrated. He's known for tricks. He's known for putting together flows, and then he's delved into breakdancing now and tried to mix that in. But he also has like really high level parkour that doesn't get. I don't know. He just doesn't show it as much. But when
I don't think
he's
as interested in it.
Yeah.
I think he's more interested in the like, how can I like create something with this one structure, right? And a lot of that is driven by like, I want to get better at breakdancing, right?
Yeah.
which personally, that's not my favorite. But there's no denying that he's a creative individual.
Yeah, it's like there's plenty of room in parkour and everything just to like do whatever you want with it. You know, like you can. There's plenty of room for that. I think it gets weird for me when we start to talk about competitions and things like that, and trying to say like who's the best and who's the most creative, and you know, just when it becomes about comparison, then it gets really weird because like I don't know what to make of stuff. It also gets weird when you're trying to tell someone what parkour is, and Jason Paul is doing like breakdancing in the middle of stuff, and I'm like, oh man, this like. How do I explain what this is to someone? If I have to use like his catalog, for example, to show someone what parkour is, it can get really weird.
Yeah, I agree. But it's like the same thing with a lot of like switch walking. Like when you see people do the switch walk or the various like ski influence tricks, it's like I literally can't do any of that. Mm-hmm. I mean, I could switch walk. I could switch walk, but I can't do a lot of the ski related tricks. But I can do traditional parkour, so I can show people what parkour is through my lens. But then somebody's like, "Oh, well, can you?" Like, I saw some guy do this. Can you do this one? No, I can't. I cannot do that. Well, I saw some guy do like flares on the like, well, that's breakdancing, but he was doing it on a wall. So I can't do that. Still, like, I can't breakdance on a wall. So yeah, I agree, and it's like this. It's this weird thing about parkour, which is that we've put everything under the umbrella of parkour. And while I in general agree with that as a concept, I think their like lines sometimes are important to draw.
Yeah, I think one time we had this, and we may have said it in this way before too on a previous recording, but like we used to talk about parkour as a spectrum, like a straight line, and then we had another conversation where we're like, actually no, it's a circle. Like everything in this circle is parkour, but there's like a bunch of different things that could go in the circle, and then the you can start to get to the very outside or edge of the circle, I guess.
Yeah. And it starts to bleed into other activities. Parkour is just skateboarding without a skateboard.
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's definitely not.
We don't really need. We shouldn't really go into like what is parkour because we.
That's a bad podcast.
It's a bad podcast discussion.
I did want to talk more about Jason, though.
Let's talk about Jason. He's on the West Coast right now.
Oh yeah, I think I saw he's in Portland.
He's in Portland,
doing some workshops. Yeah, I just I've been very like business minded as of late, and I just happened to notice that like he's doing an excellent job of marketing, and I think that anyone who is in the parkour scene, but particularly trying to make a career out of parkour, should actually pay attention to what Jason Paul's doing. There's some things that he's doing that I think some people might not care for or whatever, but I'll try to go through like a list here, and hopefully you can, if I miss anything. But so one is he started an online course recently, and countless other athletes and gyms and stuff have done that. We've thought about the idea of online course before, but it is a tricky thing to tackle with parkour, particularly when you're thinking about retention and stuff, but this is probably another podcast. But in terms of like promoting his course, I think he has done an excellent job from a marketing point of view, because he already has a big following, and he has a big following that he doesn't ask a lot of on the regular. He does like GoPro stuff where it's like giveaways and things like that, but he doesn't really have an account where he's asking people for things a lot. So I don't know if this was the plan, but he what I would call that is like he's played the long game in terms of like build audience through interesting content, which is giving the audience value. So it's like, okay, interesting content, and he's always pushing it with that too. Like he did the whole like step 1, step 2, step 3 thing. which really caught on. And again, some people might not like that, but hey, if you're a person who's excellent at parkour or excellent at tricks or whatever, and all you're doing is just posting those things, there is tons of other people that can do that. So you really have to do something that is going to set yourself apart. I know it's tough to like not have like a gimmick and not make it a gimmick, but you can't be complaining. Like if all you're doing to provide people value is just packaging your parkour the same way that anyone else can do it, then it's gonna be tough to really stand apart there.
Let's be real though, we're all guilty of it.
Yeah, no, it's like, well, it's easy to do. Like I often think of like my like Instagram usage as like I don't like posting training clips, like, and I don't like recording my training most of the time, because most of the training I do is like really boring. It's gonna be really boring for people to see like I'm just repping stuff, you know. And then occasionally I have like a playful session. I do something like, oh, that was cool and unique. Okay, I'll post it. But I'm also not like very good. So it's like I'm not like top tier when it comes to parkour. So I'm not going to be providing people a lot of value if that's what I'm putting out there. And so I'm always kind of thinking like, oh, what else could I do different? But it's hard. But he found some avenues. And you know, he has a separate skill set that he stacked on top of that. He's a good filmmaker, good photographer that he's able to stack on top of his parkour to put it out there. And again, like his following is a testament to that.
Well, he was like one of the early vloggers.
Yeah.
In parkour.
Yeah.
Like he created vlogs that were basically just like, this is me having my day today. Oh, I've got a photo shoot, and oh, I'm just gonna go and do this, you know, oh, I'm just gonna go and have dinner. And it was like kind of like boring content that was well put together, and he made it entertaining enough to watch.
Well, let's think of the timeline too, because how long ago was that?
That was
7 years,
ago now.
8 years, right? So like consistency is the other thing. Like this guy has been consistent, trying to put out creative piece of content, creative piece of media, time after time, again and again and again, to a point now where it's like, okay, I have a big following and I've had some things, because he's definitely not as good as he used to be either. Like he's branched out into, we already talked about that with like Farang Zero, like he's branched out and added different types of moves he can do, but he's not really like, you know, best in the world anymore.
You're not gonna see him win a competition anytime soon.
Yeah, like
Or
I think there's
again.
people out there with his athletic, like able to match him that way or do more, but not able to do what he's doing in terms of like putting it into a piece of media that people are going to want to watch. So with like playing that long game, now he is like, okay, I have a product now that I'm going to try to sell, and the product is his online course. And I think he had like a free thing up on Farang a while back too, where it was like over an hour long, like beginner parkour video. So it's not his first time trying to go into this, and I think he had an online course before too. But now he's using like his posts, which is another like really genius marketing thing to do. He's using his posts, like the step 1, step 2, step 3 thing, which is also
Levels,
sorry.
Yeah.
Level 1, level 2, which is also kind of his product. And using those, so like those videos are gonna get views, but then on top of that, he's now selling something on top of it. The last thing that I think he's doing, like, which is really great marketing, is you don't see price anywhere on his posts. He's just asking people to like comment. So it's like comment start. So if they comment start, he's definitely sending those people DMs, and then, you know, but basically creating leads, right? So there's a bit of engagement there. And what that's telling you is like so many people, when you get into like selling something, you're afraid of price. You're afraid of like I'm afraid of price. When I started, you know, Origins, I'm still it's like a tricky thing, you know, to land on price. And but it's a totally other thing when you can just generate leads, which is what he's doing. So he's getting people like, okay, who's interested, right? You're interested? Cool. Put start in the comment, and you can go scroll in the comments and you see like a lot of starts. And so all these people are getting messages, and you already know that you have them, that they value whatever you're trying to sell there, and so they're valuing this course that he's trying to sell. It also feels like exclusive, too. Like it's not just a website or anything. It's like, oh, I commented, and you're going to receive probably like an exclusive DM from Jason, and then he's probably going to try to sell you on the course. But and there's nothing wrong with that. And I just think, again, if you're someone who is planning to do something similar, whether it's an online course or some sort of other digital asset that you're planning on selling people, you should look at Jason Paul's whole like last 8 years of like what he's done to build up to this, because I don't know what he's like, if he's making good coin off this, but he probably is. And then from there, it's like the product actually has to be good to keep people, like, to retain them. But
I don't know if he's actually selling the course yet, though, or if he has completed the course.
I think he is now. But either way, it's, again, like you're building. So even if it's even better, right? It's like, cool, I'm generating leads before.
He might even be pre-selling it.
Yeah.
But yeah, either way, he's gonna do very well at this, I think. But this is targeted only at beginners right now, and then eventually he wants to do like a more.
That's the biggest market, though.
Yeah.
And probably like the bulk of his following are people that are like come on, like the bulk of people interested in Jason Paul and the type of content he posts probably aren't people that are like watching him because they think he's the best, or whatever. It's probably. I wouldn't be surprised if the majority of his followers are already just like beginners in parkour or people that don't do parkour.
Yeah.
And they're just interested in this guy who's putting out this engaging media to consume, and then thinking about like, oh, I'd like to start, but it seems dangerous. And it's like, oh, but hey, have you seen my level method?
Levels parkour.
Yeah. It's really cool. I mean, just props to Jason. I think he's played it the right way. I think in terms of building a following to eventually build a business, and of course, he also through Farang and everything, also like the clothing. I think he's just done. Oh, are you pulling up his? You pulling up the?
Yeah.
Is it still Parkour Roadmap, by the way? That was the kind of, yeah, it is. Yeah, that was a funny thing that everyone's touching on, because Max Henry has a book called The Parkour Roadmap.
Well, and not only that, but Jason Paul was like wrote a a testimonial or whatever.
Yeah, I'm assuming he just forgot.
Yeah, probably. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, and he's building an email list. He's giving away free content. He has 622,000 followers on Instagram.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of it too, right? Is he has a large following that he's able to dip into. And it's constantly growing because he's making content that people are interested in. Especially with the levels stuff, it's like, oh, this guy is actually not just he's not just good at parkour, but he's showing me how I can break stuff down, and now that's like more valuable, right? Mm-hmm. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I like what he's doing. And he's on the West Coast. I wonder why he's in Portland. I think Emily's family lives in like San Fran or something. But yeah, that's true. Yeah, but the other thing too is he has time. He has time to do this. Mm-hmm. He's just a Red Bull sponsored athlete. I don't know what he does on his day to day outside of take care of his kid and
media.
I
think he's built up a media skill. Right?
But this is what I mean is like it's not like he has like a day job that he has to go to, or I mean, he's probably spending a lot of his time building this course. So
hopefully, otherwise all that marketing's going to be waste because you can't retain anybody. But hopefully. Yeah, I have nothing to speak of in terms of how good the course is going to be or anything. Like he doesn't, as far as I know, doesn't coach full time. So I would, if I was putting my money into a course, I would want to put it into the person that's putting those reps, like coaching people all the time. But also, yeah, it's an online courses are tricky to begin with, right? It's like we know that it's tricky to make an online course for parkour that is going to retain people and get them continuing to learn parkour and improve and progress.
Yeah, but he's probably not necessarily like selling a product that's like membership based. He's probably just selling like a one-time course. It's not necessarily intended for retention, unless he has an upsell later on.
Well, it should be if he wants to keep making money off it.
Yeah, but people are only going to be beginners for so long, right?
Yeah.
So if it's a beginner-oriented course, so it's like at a certain point, people are going to not be beginners and not be his target market anymore.
Well, is it beginners if it's the level, like some of his posts, you get to level 5, you're getting pretty fancy there, you know? It's not exactly.
Yeah, but it's not just like these are the levels videos and that's all you're paying for. Apparently it's more in depth than that. And I've just seen some of his stories say like, yeah, this isn't intended for people who are advanced. It's more for beginners who are getting into parkour. And he wants to do another one for later on when you're more advanced.
Weird.
But yeah, pretty cool. Cool stuff. Do we want to talk more about Jason Paul and Farang and give them more free advertising?
I think I'm good on that.
Do you want to talk about Josh Doey's little?
Josh Doey show. I'm super happy for Josh, even though he doesn't watch this. I'm super happy for Josh and that because he was trying to do a podcast for a long time.
Yeah.
And like sinking on views. And I think it was for him, I mean, good on him because I think a big part of that was just him like committing to it and trying to get better at it. And the same thing he's done like stand-up and committing to stand-up and trying to get better at it just by getting the reps in. So I think he got a lot of reps through doing a podcast, through doing stand-up, but he's really seemingly landed on a formula that really works for him because he can edit it down to something short. Like it's not a podcast. I think he tried to call it one. And it's like, if it's under 10 minutes, I don't know.
It's a show. It's like it's
the movement.
Yeah, it's called the movement. If you haven't checked it out, we'll maybe link it below.
Yeah.
But the movement is very funny. It's jokes about parkour and the current events around parkour, and it's kind of like quick and punchy, and it definitely makes you laugh.
Yeah. Well, I think he does a good job too of like reviewing when he's like, oh, here's some tricks you haven't seen or whatever. But he has a more exciting way of reviewing stuff that doesn't involve two guys just talking about it for like 15 minutes. Yeah, so yeah, it's great for just like bite-sized format, and I hope he's able to continue to do it.
Yeah, I mean, he's trying to do it as a weekly show.
Yeah, which is hard in parkour because there's not a lot of weekly things going on.
So are we. STS is weekly.
Yeah.
For now.
Yeah, but I think like we tried that before where we were trying to do like current events, and it doesn't.
Well, at a certain point, it like we started running out of current events. It's like, how do we even create something out of nothing? Like, and Josh right now I think is blessed with this is end of year stuff. So there's lots of content that's coming out. People are putting out their year edit videos, and there's just like a lot happening right now. So I think there's a lot to talk about, but I wonder, after over the next few months, how it's going to start to pan out and if there's still going to be enough to talk about for him to continue doing this weekly.
Yeah, I mean, if he keeps doing posts, so like if he keeps saying like, here's like my favorite clips of the week or whatever, I think he's good.
Yeah, that's true. It's like another podcast that's kind of done that, Jamcast.
Yeah, and he watches Jamcast a lot, and I think I think he's doing what they were doing, but better.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's like, it's digestible. It's like, who has time for a podcast? I just want to watch it.
But also, if it's a podcast where you're watching clips, then you have to be engaged to like watch what they're like. If we started putting up, a screen or whatever in the middle of the thing, and we're watching, Instagram clips and reacting to them, because that's what it was, is like reacting. It's kind of, I mean, you gotta be more animated. You gotta do a bunch of stuff, and then it also means that people have to tune in for like the whole hour and then watch that part too. Whereas like you could be, put this on and go do some dishes or
go do some dishes.
Put us in your earphones and go walk your dog. That's what we're about.
Sure. Yeah. Actually, never mind. I'm not gonna say that because we don't want to. We don't want to do that. We don't want to have the little box of. We don't want to have the work of putting the little box in of the video.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Like as time goes on, if we can get some more help on this thing, like we can, add stuff. But like whenever we get comments where people, they actually don't do it so much anymore. But when we used to do STS, and they'd be like, "You should put videos of what you're talking about," and I was like, "Y'all know how much work that is?"
Yeah, exactly.
If I was, if we weren't doing other things, yes, absolutely, could put more into it. But yeah, I don't know. I will probably eventually. Bite the bullet and hire an editor one of these days and have some help putting some of this stuff together. But for now, you get a Johnny Taylor.
That's a JT original.
Yeah. I actually do want it. Well, yeah, also there's a whole room around us that could be a better studio space eventually down the line. But if you want to keep getting these every week, it's got to be, simple enough for us to be able to actually get it out there.
Yeah, if we have the barrier to getting it done super high, then it's not going to get done.
The second we commit to trying to put more bells and whistles, if you will, into this program, that's probably when it's going to not happen anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, unless it's like revenue generating or something.
Yeah.
Like if we had sponsors.
Yeah. But they'd have to be like big sponsors, not just like, oh yeah, we'll give you a pair of shorts.
No, it's cash sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
So get at us if you're interested in sponsoring STS to make it better, and we'll yeah.
I think that's it for today.
Then we'll do that. Okay. Well, thanks for tuning in. Please like and subscribe if you want more content from us two geezers. And we'll see you in the next episode.